You know the name Rapunzel, right? The girl, the tower, that famously long hair. But what is this story really trying to tell us? Well, today, we're going to pull this classic fairy tale apart to get to the heart of its powerful lessons on desperate choices, devastating consequences, and the unbelievable strength of love.
So let me just ask you this, right at the top. What would you be willing to trade to get something you wanted more than anything in the world? Just think about that for a second. Because the answer to that question is pretty much the spark that lights this whole fire. All right, so our story kicks off with a single faithful bargain. It's a classic setup, right? A really intense craving leads to a desperate act, and that act, well, it leads to a truly unthinkable price.
And what was this all about? A plant. Specifically, a plant called rampion. Now, this wasn't just some salad green. It was believed to be the only thing that could cure a pregnant woman's mysterious illness. The catch? It only grew in the garden of the enchantress Dame Gothel, the one place you really don't want to be caught trespassing. This one craving sets off this absolutely devastating chain of events. Her husband, terrified his wife might die, sneaks in and steals the rampion. Of course, he gets caught, and Gothel lays out the deal. You can have the plant, but I get your firstborn child. And just like that, the deal is done. The price is paid, a newborn baby snatched away from her parents forever.
And in this, I don't know, almost cruelly poetic twist, the enchantress names the baby Rapunzel, after the very plant that cost her her freedom. Her name becomes a permanent reminder of the bargain that sealed her fate.
So, time passes, and Rapunzel grows up. But her world, well, it's incredibly small. It's just a lonely tower with no doors and no stairs. Her only company is her captor and her own incredible singing voice.
And you really see these two completely different realities right next to each other. For Dame Gothel, the outside world is this cruel, dangerous place that you have to be afraid of. But for Rapunzel, her whole world is just this tower, filled with chores and songs. What Gothel calls protection is really just a beautiful cage.
And this famous line becomes the rhythm of their lives. It's Gothel's daily call, using Rapunzel's unbelievably long golden hair as a living ladder to get into the tower. It just reinforces her absolute control over Rapunzel's entire existence. But here's the thing. You can't keep a voice that beautiful locked away forever. A prince who happens to be riding through the forest hears her singing and is just completely captivated. He keeps coming back to the tower, hides, and eventually he sees how Gothel gets in. He discovers the secret. But the prince doesn't just fall for the song. He finds the person behind it. He starts visiting Rapunzel in secret, using the same let down your hair trick. And for the first time ever, she has a real connection to another person, to the outside world. They fall in love. And, naturally, they start making a plan to escape. A ladder woven together from silky brings her on every visit. Okay, this is it. This is the moment where everything changes. All their secret plans, all their hopes, they're about to be completely shattered by one single innocent mistake. And here it is, the fatal slip-up. In a moment of just total carelessness, Rapunzel says to Gothel something like, "You know, you're so much heavier to pull up than the prince is." She has no idea what she's just said. The secret is out. And Gothel's reaction? It's immediate. It's furious. For her, this isn't just about some secret visitor. This is a deep, personal betrayal. The one person she thought she was protecting has gone behind her back. The punishment is just brutal and so symbolic. Gothel grabs a pair of scissors and in one snip cuts off all of Rapunzel's magnificent hair, the very thing that was her connection to Gothel, her beauty, her one link to the world, and her only means of escape, gone. All of it just gone in an instant. What comes next is, honestly, the darkest part of the whole story. Rapunzel is banished, the prince is tricked and horribly injured, and they're both thrown into years and years of lonely suffering, completely cut off from each other. And their lives just splinter into these two separate, awful paths. The prince, tricked by Gothel, who dangles Rapunzel's severed hair from the tower, leaps in despair and is blinded by the thorns below. He spends years just wandering, starving, haunted by the memory of a song he can't find. Meanwhile, Rapunzel is cast out into a desert wasteland. But she doesn't just survive, she gives birth to their twin children and raises them all by herself in this incredibly harsh place. And you have to understand, we're not talking about a few weeks or months here. Between that terrible fall from the tower
and the moment they finally find each other again. A whole chapter of their lives is just lost. Years. We're talking years of wandering, of blindness, of exile.
But even after all that darkness and all that time, a tiny little thread of hope is still out there. And in the final part of our story, that one thread leads to an absolute miracle. It's her voice. After all those years of wandering blindly through the world, he hears her song again. It's faint, just carried on the wind in the middle of nowhere, but he knows it instantly, and he follows the sound.
And when they finally find each other, the reunion is so overwhelming, so full of sorrow and joy that Rapunzel just weeps. And in the story's last bit of magic, 2 of her tears fall on his blind eyes, and just like that, they heal him. They restore his sight.
With his sight back and his family finally found, the prince takes Rapunzel and their children back to his kingdom to start their lives over. The long, terrible years of suffering are finally at an end. So, when you boil it all down, what is this fairy tale really explaining to us? Well, for one, that desperate choices can have devastating, long-lasting consequences. It shows us how incredibly resilient hope can be, even after years of despair. And maybe, most importantly, it's about the power of love to survive incredible hardship and time, and this idea that real healing can sometimes come directly from sorrow itself.
So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Was Dame Gothel just a straightforward, cruel villain? Or was she a twisted kind of protector? Someone so genuinely terrified of the dangers of the world that she built a prison out of her own fear, and maybe her own strange love. The story doesn't really say, and maybe that's the whole point.